We are walking up to try to catch a colectivo.
Oh,
here it is. Perfect timing. Off on another adventure today. We're in the colectivo. Can you guess where we're standing?
At least they got lots of bars to hang on to. It's really just like an open top bus. Not bad at all.
A little bit like a cattle car, for sure. But this is how they do it here. Well, hold on tight. We made it! Been hiking up to this mirror door. Let me tell you, there's a lot of stairs. We made it up. I think the view's worth it. Let's see what you think.
Yeah, I'm getting a pedicure. This guy's getting a few bites on my toes. Oh, that's some slippy rocks. It's much easier to swim. It's a little bit difficult with one hand holding the GoPro, but luckily I'm an expert. Can't touch the ground. Alright, here we go. Hopefully I don't slip on my way in. Alright, let's see a jump. I want to see a cannonball. You can do it! Good job.
It's been a beautiful morning. Surprisingly, there's not that many people here. I really lucked out. So cool. We gotta head out though. It's already 11. We took off for the colectivo at 7:50 with the thought that we were gonna kind of head there pretty quickly. But that colectivo ended up taking about 2 hours. So that's a bummer. But we made it. We've seen a good bit. And I think this little trail should take us maybe to some more pools on the way out. So maybe we'll see a little more of it. These boards are a little bit bendy.
Not the worst we've seen.
Definitely not the worst we've seen. The water here is such a pretty blue. Apparently they do tubing here in the river, which is not pretty blue. So the pretty blue waters, it's actually little pools, and it goes over top of the river. So it either has a different water source, maybe water that comes down the mountain. I'm not sure, but it's beautiful. The river's still nice, but not like this. David said he thinks it's the same water from the river, but maybe it's just because it's shallow. That it's
there's lots of lime on the land bridge.
And lots of lime. How pretty. Alright, this water's too pretty. We're gonna have to hop in this pool before we leave. It's just too good. Sí. Muy bonito.
Yeah. Wash that hat off.
I don't have a hat on.
Yeah. It's nice.
That was nice.
I think we gotta head back to the camper here. We're thinking the road back will take us around an hour, and it's a little after 11 now, and we left the camper at 6:50? 7:50? 7:50. So it's pretty hot out, so I'm sure the battery's getting drained down, and we don't want to risk the cats being hot in the camper. It's nice here, but ready to head back.
Nice. I'm glad we got in one more pool. Water's so blue. It's pretty cool, which is nice because it's very hot out here. I don't know how hot, but I would say it's at least a solid 85 if I had to guess. But it's getting close to 11:30 and we got to get back to those kitties. Make sure it stays cool for them because it's hot and we don't want that AC to go off for them. We met another cool traveler today named Joe. That was cool. He hopped on our Colectivo. Actually, he had great timing for the Colectivo because he was the last stop before we actually came here. So we just rode around on it for about an hour longer, maybe an hour and a half, I don't know. A long time.
Yeah, the ride up here was actually pretty wild. I talked with a guy this morning that was in the parking lot where we were camped, and he asked if we were coming to Semuc Champey. And I said, yeah, and he said, okay, we've got a Colectivo coming. It could be here at 7:50. Will you guys be ready? I was like, yeah, sure, that'll work. And he told us the price, and it was 35 quetzales per person, which is the same as what I had read it was. So that was all fine and good. But we actually went past the turn to come here and went into the city. And I guess he wasn't just going to take only us in the back of the truck. He had to fill it up, which makes sense. But we drove around in the city for so long and just drove in circles around the square. We picked up concrete bags, drinks, beers, some rebar was tied to the side.
All kinds of fruit.
All kinds of fruit. And we're just standing in the back like, is this a taxi or what are we doing here? And the guy who sold us the ticket actually left. He was pretty good. He was a pretty good English speaker, so we couldn't even really ask. But yeah, eventually we made it, but it was a lot longer than we thought it was going to be.
Yeah, we didn't exactly know where the entrance was to Semuc Champey. I think actually where we're camped is really close to the road you had to turn onto. Little did we know, we probably should have just walked down there to get a colectivo. Lesson learned. But anyway, we initially were really enjoying the ride into town, and there was a big market actually. We haven't really gone into town, but everybody was hustling and bustling, getting their fruits at the market, and there was a carniceria where they were tenderizing meat by hand, and we saw some little piglets and I mean all kinds of things. So I mean that started out pretty cool, but that was the first time around the square. The second time was less exciting, and the fourth or fifth time we were feeling a little bit aggravated, but I guess we haven't taken that many colectivos, so we just didn't really know the drill. We are pretty lucky with our vehicle. We get to just go where we want to go, so I think it was more of a taste of what the locals do. Well, good news, we made it back alive from that super bumpy colectivo ride.
Yeah, it was definitely like a roller coaster bouncing around. The truck on the way back, it had better suspension than the first truck, so it was a lot smoother of a ride. And I think the guy drove quite a bit faster too. He was really taking those turns, and on our 30-minute drive back, he stopped at 2 different little tiendas, and all he did was honk the horn, and then a girl came out with 2 gallos, which were beers, and handed it to him. So we were like, well, at least we caught him earlier in the day before he had too many cervezas. It was interesting.
Yeah, oh my gosh. At one point I looked over at David as we were going down, like straight down a gravel part of the road that was very steep, and he was driving pretty fast. I looked at David and I said, I'm pretty sure this is one of those things my mom told me never to do. We both just kind of laughed because yeah, it definitely didn't feel safe, but it was really the only way to get there. I mean, that was the only vehicle that was taking tourists, were those like cattle-like trucks where you just stand up in the back. But that was the only vehicle that was taking tourists down to Semuc Champey, and that was the only road to get there. Although they were working on it, there was construction that has been going on, and I think maybe about a quarter of the road so far was paved already. But I'm sure in a couple of years, if not sooner, they're going to have the whole thing done. And I bet it's going to get a lot more tourism. Really, the area reminded us quite a bit of Grutas Tolantango back in Mexico, but it did feel quite a bit more natural and less touristy, just because it's so hard to get to, I think. And even once you're in Lanquin, which is where we stayed, the colectivo ride to get to Semuc Champey was a solid 30 minutes, if not longer, on that crazy road. So I'm sure once the road is done, it'll be a different story. They'll be getting tour buses down there, and I'm sure the hotels will go in, and it'll be much more crowded. But we really enjoyed it. It was nice. It was a really beautiful area, and I think it was everything I had seen on Pinterest, which really isn't always the case. But I'm glad we stopped and made the roundabout trip. I think this was at least a 4-hour detour, if not longer, to get here. But what do you think? Was it worth it?
Yeah, no, it definitely was. I was skeptical at first because of how out of the way it was coming here, and it's all through the mountains, so it's crazy mountain roads, but it was definitely worth it.
Here's your product.
Can't go up fast enough. About made it up the steep hill again, which is very exciting. No transmission issues for us. Unlike a few trucks we saw stopped on the side of the road. Here's our sharp left.
See anybody coming that way?
You're good my way. And just like that, we're back on the main road. So I think we're gonna leave you here for today. We hope you've enjoyed the fun. We'll be back soon with more adventures, so stay tuned. Cheers, guys. If you liked this video, let us know by liking and subscribing. And don't forget, you can see more of the journey on Instagram and TikTok. Cheers, friends!